What's philosophy? Stay tuned, and I'll give you my best attempt at an explanation. So, what is philosophy? Philosophy in ancient Greek means love of wisdom, the philo, like you get in philanthropy, love of humans, or any other number of words. Philology, the love of words. So philosophy is about the love of Sophia, wisdom. And what I always say when I think about what this love is that type of philosophical love, it's not the type of love that when you want to love something and possess that thing, or you covet that thing, or even you worship that thing. When you really love someone or something, you value it for what it is, and you appreciate it for what it is, and you make room for it. So philosophy does involve that kind of love. I think that's a great starting point. But philosophy is more than that. What does it mean to love wisdom? How do we practice that in our lives? I think the main way that we practice love of wisdom in our lives today is through asking questions. So just raising questions in general, not answering those questions, mind you, but raising them. The art of asking questions, that's philosophy. The art of raising questions and allowing those questions to develop and float out there and take shape and be what they are, and to approach those questions and kind of savor them. So what are some philosophical questions? There's classic ones like, is there a meaning of life? What happens after we die? Is it possible to really know whether there's right or wrong? Are there aliens out there? That's, I think, a philosophical question, kind of depends on how you define aliens. And many questions in other domains and areas of life, like scientific questions, often began as philosophical questions. So for instance, is the earth round? Or what are human beings? Or what is life and how do you define it? Or what is human society? A lot of these questions that are foundational to other disciplines outside of philosophy and other worldviews require philosophy to be defined. But those aren't the only kind of questions that are philosophical. A philosophical question is just a question that you can open and sustain. So say like, is the weather going to be good or not today? Now, you'll get a response to that question. You'll be able to answer it and settle the question and move past the question. Maybe you check on your phone the weather app and that gives you some sense of information and you accept that. Or you wait and see how the weather actually is and then you find it that it was good or bad. But when the question is open, when that question is open and remains unresolved for you, then it is philosophical and it can be philosophical and you can probe it and explore it and, think with it and expand it or contract it. It's still plastic, and that's the philosophical nature of it. It's not even so much in the question itself, it's in the way that we handle those questions. How is it that just raising questions alone can be philosophical? Two examples here that will hopefully illustrate this for you. One, think of young children. Young children who ask why. Whenever they're given an explanation for something, many children continually ask why. They want an explanation of why it is that, we do things this way. So why do I have to wear a seatbelt when I'm in the car to prevent you from getting injured? Well, why do we want to prevent me from getting injured? Doesn't that seem self-explanatory? What's self-explanatory? And so on and so forth. Examples like that show how why, and a never settling for the fullness of an answer is itself a way of continuing a line of questioning. Children can do that very well, sometimes to the point of annoyance, or we might say in a certain naivete, but there's also something profound about this form of questioning. Second example, Socrates. Socrates is like the OG of philosophy, kind of like the martyr of philosophy and the defining figure of philosophy, at least in its Western defined mode that narrowly takes ancient high classical Greece to be the classical core and axiomatic root seed of philosophy, which not all approaches to philosophy do. However, Socrates is and was incredibly important, and it's no exaggeration to say that globally in the history of philosophy, there are few individuals who've exerted so high of shape and influence. And based on what we know about Socrates as a historical figure, Socrates was always asking questions and was always pursuing dialogue and conversation further and further and further. So Socrates, the archetypal philosopher, sort of the original philosopher in the self-definition of Western philosophy, was themselves a questioner par excellence and exemplified, in a certain sense, this mode of questioning. Socrates, in the Apology, perhaps Plato's most well-known dialogue. It's a great one to read. It's quite short. You should read it at least once in your life. Socrates describes his own method as living an examined life and claims that an unexamined life, that is a life that we don't raise questions about, isn't worth living at all. That's something interesting to think about as well, that for Socrates, and I think for many philosophers, philosophy is a commitment to questioning. It's, again, a love of wisdom. And when you love something, you stick with it, and you feel that life, in a certain sense, isn't worth living without it. Hey, thanks so much for watching this. Let me know if you liked the approach to philosophy that I laid out here. This is how I like to think about and talk about philosophy with my own students, and over the years, it's what I've developed. There are a lot of topics within philosophy that I could talk about and that I'm interested to talk about, but I want to know what you especially care about and what you'd like to hear me elaborate on. Thanks again for watching. Subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you're interested to hear next. Bye.